For the past 2 weeks, we've had nothing but rain. We have nothing but rain in the forecast for the next 10 days. It's taking a hit on my riding, so I purchased an indoor bike trainer so I can keep myself in shape. And for that indoor trainer, I decided on a specific bike so that I can have a permanent setup so I don't have excuses when I need to pedal. And the bike I decided on is a $129 Kent road bike that's been on the top shelf of my local Walmart's bike racks for over 2 months. I've been waiting to pick this bike up. As I mentioned, it's been raining constantly, so when I woke up Saturday morning and there was about 15 minutes before the next wave of rains rolled through, I decided to hit up my local Walmart, which is only about 2 miles away. That would give me enough time to get there, get the bike, and get home. But what it didn't give me was time to inspect the bike. I was in such a hurry to beat the rain that I didn't notice until I was on the way out to the car with it that there was some rust on the top of the reflector screws. I didn't think much of this because during the holidays I saw Walmart line quite a few bikes up in the garden center exposed to the elements. They couldn't fit them all inside, so they had to put them somewhere, and that would account for this light bit of rust. Once I got the bike home, I noticed there was a little more rust than I initially thought. Not a lot, and not ideal, but also not really a big deal. It's not so much rust that it's going to stand out. There was a little bit of concerning rust on the bubbling paint of the chainstay welds, but this bike's not going to endure a lot of stress being on an indoor bike trainer. So I guess it'll work for now. At least that's what I thought. It wasn't until I started inspecting even further that I started to suspect that this wasn't a new bike. In fact, I think this is a returned bike. And there are multiple reasons I think that. For starters, the sooty black grime that's coating the entire bike. There are also physical signs of use. And this is Alabama. A lot of people will carry a bike pitched in the back of a truck. And when you do that, you tend to scratch both the front fork and the pedals. And this bike has both. The chain is also grimier than it should have been, and some of that grime is on the chainstay as well as chainstay chips where someone probably rode this over curbs. Further inspection shows some of the reasons this bike was returned, like the rear brake. It functions normally most of the time, but at random, it'll lock in place and you have to open it up with your fingers. This bike also suffers from traditional poor Walmart assembly, which in itself isn't a big deal if you know what to look for and know how to adjust it. Unfortunately, whoever bought this bike didn't notice that the front brakes aren't on the braking surface of the wheel. Instead, they're chewing into the graphics every time they stopped. The previous owner also likely had trouble keeping air in the front tire, or they blew the tube out, and that's because it leaked air at the valve stem faster than I could put it in. Speaking of valve stems, you get the traditional Schrader on the front and on the rear, but on the rear there was this weird cap. It wasn't present on the front, so I don't know if the previous owner added it or took one off the front and didn't put it back. And when I tried to shift the bike, I discovered why they likely returned this, and that's because the right shifter works fine, but the left is frozen in place. My guess would be rust, because the front derailleur moves fine, so something is freezing that shifter. Whatever the cause, I'm returning this bike. You should never accept a used bike as a new one, especially when you pay your hard-earned money for it, even if it's only $129. When you return a product to Walmart, they ask you if there's anything wrong with it. If you say no, they likely put that right back on the shelf. And I believe that may be the case with this bike. Whatever the case, this bike is definitely not new and it shouldn't have been sold as such. So I'm returning it, and I've already ordered a replacement bike from Walmart.com. That way I can set it up myself and ensure that everything's proper from the get-go and new. And the moral of this story is that if you're going to buy a bike off the Walmart shelf, you need to pay close attention, because there's not only likely assembly issues, but you want to make sure you don't get someone's returned bike. Thanks for watching and have a great day.